So now that everything has been reset, we are going to see if it makes any difference. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wait a couple of minutes and see if people are able to come on to the broadcast. Looks like we've got a couple of people coming onto the broadcast, so I think I'm actually going to get going. My apologies for the mishap there. Technology is a wonderful thing when it works. And when it doesn't work, it sometimes feels like you want to throw the technology through the window. And I know that all of you out there know what I'm talking about. Yep, thank you for the hearts. I appreciate it. Hey, this is Neil Palacci with the Wealth Creator Company for Women. And my lips are moving at pretty much the same time as I'm talking, so I think we're good to go. Yes, it is working. All right, thanks very much. Thank you for the hearts. I appreciate that. I'm going to take that as a good sign that everybody can, in fact, hear me clearly, see me clearly. One of our viewers would like to know if he or she can borrow somebody else's credit card because apparently his or hers was lost. So I put that out there for those of you who would like to lend this gentleman or lady their credit card. I'll pass on that, but maybe there's somebody else that would like to do that. So I appreciate the request. So we're going to talk a little bit about credit cards and debt, or credit, debt, and credit cards, depending on which you would like to do first. But look, we all know that we live in an economic time and society where credit is very important. If you have a credit score of 700, and if you don't know what that is, we'll get into that at another time. But credit scores are very important, and 700 is kind of a bit of a magic number. Anything higher than that is terrific. 720, 740, 760, you're a star. If you're at 800 or above, you're an absolute superstar. And you will have money, money banks lining up at your front door to lend you money. So 800 is fantastic. 700 is kind of magic. But you can still do things at 660 and 680. You can get mortgages. Sometimes you can get credit cards. You can certainly buy a car and borrow money to buy a car. There's always limitations, and you may not be able to get the best interest rates. So from a money-saving perspective, the better your credit score is, not only the more likely that you can borrow money when you need to, but more importantly maybe is that money is cheaper. With interest rates being as low as they are, you can borrow money, at 3 and 4 and 5% in some cases. You can check your credit score for free. Somebody just asked me that. Credit Karma is very good. I like it. I have that account. It's a free account. You can get free reports and scores. Credit Karma, KARMA, CREDITKARMA.com. You can get your free credit score and free credit report there. And I don't think you have to enter a credit card or anything like that. So I don't remember having done that. And that's a great place to check everything out, make sure that everything is the way that it is. And it is important to do that, obviously. Maybe not obviously. But to me, it's obvious that you want to check your credit score. Why? Because people do borrow other people's credit cards. And in some case, they borrow it without the other person knowing, which is a nice way of saying they steal it. So when you get your credit card stolen and somebody else puts charges on your card, it will affect your credit. Possibly even cost you some money, but usually the credit card companies are pretty good about that when there's fraud. So let's talk about the credit score and how it can be impacted. When you're in your 20s, you want to start building credit. You probably don't have any credit. I will say that I want you to be careful if you're in college, because there are credit card companies that seem to be able to come onto the onto the college campuses and provide you with credit cards. And I heard the other day from a young lady that there are now actually credit card companies that are sending credit cards ready to rock and roll with low limits, but nevertheless to the students. Here you go. Here's a credit card with $500 on it. So go have some fun. And there you are, going out, getting your new computer, and as a result, building credit and getting yourself into trouble. So be careful. But if you can do that, put $100 on it, pay $20 a month over the next few months, pay it down quickly, but over a few months, you will in fact build credit, and that can be a good thing. As you grow older, as you mature, as you go into business, or you want to buy a house, get a car, which is often the next purchase, the car. The car is often quite easy to buy. Yes, the car manufacturers want to sell you a car. Can you believe it? So they make it fairly easy for you to get a car, depending on your credit score, how long you've been at your job, and so forth, will affect the interest rate that you pay on the loan that you get, or the lease rate that you pay, the lease factor that you are able to get, will change and will go up the worse your credit is and the shorter your job history and so forth. But it's a way to build your credit. Now, one of the interesting things that I get asked all the time, actually it really isn't that interesting, but it does affect your credit score, and that is people will say to me, I have this credit card and I paid it off. Should I cancel it? Good question. The answer typically is no. Don't cancel it. Now, why wouldn't you cancel it? Wouldn't that increase your credit score? Well, not necessarily. Did I just say necessarily? That is something that I would say to my kids to have them giggle a little. So hopefully you laughed at that and realized that I really meant necessarily. And so the idea is that if you have multiple credit cards and you pay one of them off, you will want to keep the third credit card because it actually potentially decreases your credit score. Why? Well, let's look at this. You have $1,000 on each of 3 credit cards, and you've used $500 of each, and you're at 50%, so 500 of 1,000 on one and so on the other 2. You pay off the $500 on the third credit card, and you now have $1,000 of debt on $3,000 of available credit versus $1,500. So you've reduced your percentage, your ratio, to 1,000 of 3,000, which is 33%, from 50% of 3,000, 1,500 of 3,000, which is 50%. Now, if you then cancel that third credit card, what you've done is you've reduced your available credit limit to $2,000, but you have $1,000 of debt outstanding against that $2,000. So in fact, you have the same 50% ratio, and it's possible that your credit rating may go down, or your credit score may go down because of canceling that third credit card, which had some good history on it, and you've now essentially erased that history. So it will potentially lower your credit score. So you want to keep the credit cards that you've paid off, with one exception, and I would say that exception is if that credit card has a substantial annual fee. Now, I happen to think that any annual fee is substantial, but it depends what you're getting for that fee. If there are, in fact, airline points or other points that you're using and are helping you to save money in other ways, then it may be that, it's not such a bad thing to pay that annual fee. But for the most part, you want to keep the credit card, lower the debt, lower the amount of debt that you carry as against the credit that's available, and it will, in fact, lower the score. Also, lowering the score could be done by getting another credit card. Now, that could be risky. You've got to make a decision whether or not you are able to be a good, thrifty user of credit cards and not actually use them. But if you've got a fourth credit card with another $1,000 on it, your credit could potentially now be $1,000 used against $4,000 of available credit. Now you're at 25%. And the banks like that. The credit score keepers, the credit agencies, which are Experian, TransUnion, and for some reason the third one's gone right out of my mind. I'm having a senior moment, and I'm not a senior. But nevertheless, those three credit agencies like 25% of your credit to be used versus 50 or 75% kind of makes sense, and it'll make your credit score go up. Now, the other thing that you've got to make sure is that when you go in and you check your credit, that you don't have any, as we said before, that you don't have any stuff on there that isn't yours, that there isn't a medical bill. Well, I paid that doctor, but for some reason you were taken to collection. Now, that'll be reflected in your score. Your score may drop below 700, be it the 680, 670, 660. You can go on to sites like Credit Karma, or you can go directly to the Equifax, Experian, or TransUnion. Hey, there's the third one. And you can dispute that particular issue, and if it's incorrect, they will remove it. And in fact, if in checking it they don't respond, the vendor doesn't respond within 30 days, they're supposed to remove it anyway. So it's fairly easy to get your credit score up, but you have to work at it. If you have any other questions about any of this, please feel free to send me an email at neil@thewealthcreatorcompany.com. Please go to my website, thewealthcreatorcompany.com, and sign up for our weekly newsletter. Or feel free to call me direct at 818-606-7327. This is Neil Palacci with the Wealth Creator Company for Women. Have a wonderful week. Take care.